Hey folks, Jordan with the Young Turks, TYT Politics, live in my kitchen. Apologize, I have a mop behind me. Here come the complaints that I'm low tech and too raw. I agree. After the election, I might get TYT to set me up a little studio or something, make me look very snazzy and professional. But for now, you get me in my kitchen. If you don't like it, go watch 60 Minutes. What can I tell you? So I've been a little busy on WikiLeaks, so I haven't been covering that much else. Obviously, WikiLeaks has been story of the day, story of the week, story of the month, really. So I've been keeping up on that. You could watch my reports on the latest WikiLeaks. I've been doing a lot of them at the Young Turks YouTube page to try to get it out to a wider audience. The Young Turks has been encouraging me to do more on WikiLeaks. So for those of you who have been complaining that the Young Turks doesn't do enough on WikiLeaks, I technically work for the Young Turks, so that counts. The Young Turks is doing it. And I know that Cenk and them will be doing some more tonight on the show, which is in 13 minutes, so I better hurry up. I just did a report on YouTube. Now I'm over to Facebook. We like kind of mixing and matching. But I don't want to get so, focused on the WikiLeaks that we forget other things. And I think a story I read on Bernie Sanders recently where he was interviewed by the Washington Post. A little annoyed that Bernie keeps going to these establishment rags instead of talking to yours truly, but Rome wasn't built in a day. We'll see. We'll see. I'll get him eventually. But he pretty much fired off a warning shot. I would say maybe not even a warning shot against Hillary Clinton and the Democratic establishment. Now I know a lot of you are not so fond of Bernie at the moment. He stole your heart during the winter and spring, only to crush it over the summer. Totally get it. Hold on. I gotta move this. Gotta move this. I don't like the broom in the back. That's too low tech for me. Anyway, so a lot of you are not happy with him because he endorsed her, not happy that he's going around the country saying nice things about her. I get it. I'm not going to tell you how to think. You think what you want. But to me, Bernie Sanders is still the most important figure in progressive politics in America. I think although what he's doing in the present is not desired and preferred by most of you, doesn't mean that in the future you might not be jumping right on the Bernie train again. I'm going to be covering Bernie the same way I did in the primary after the election, because I think that Bernie Sanders, whether he's president or not, might have just as much influence. I think Bernie Sanders has inspired millions of young people. He has re-inspired millions of older Americans. And I think he is going to fight like tooth and nail Hillary Clinton and the Democratic establishment. And this article shows you that. So let me read to you. The headline was "Sanders is prepared to be a liberal thorn in Clinton's side." This is a toned down headline. You get that from mainstream press, who doesn't want to make it doesn't want to create conflict if it's against the establishment. This article will show you he's talking about a little more than being a thorn in her side. So, Bernie, still going around the country supporting her. Senator Bernie Sanders, a loyal soldier for Hillary Clinton since he conceded the Democratic presidential nomination in July, plans to push liberal legislation with like-minded senators, with or without Clinton's support if she is elected, and to aggressively oppose appointments that do not pass muster with the party's left wing. In an interview, Sanders said he and other senators have started plotting legislation that would achieve many of the proposals that fueled his insurgent run for president, including a $15 federal minimum wage, tuition-free public college, an end to, quote, mass incarceration, and aggressive steps to fight climate change. So, no shit, Sherlock. Most of this is not surprising. The senators, Sanders said, also plan to push for the breakup of too-big-to-fail banks and to pressure Clinton to appoint liberals to key cabinet positions, including Treasury Secretary. Sanders said he would not stay silent if Clinton nominated the, quote, same old Wall Street guys to regulatory positions that are important in enacting and overseeing the financial policies he supports. Quote, I will be vigorously in opposition, and I will make that very clear, Sanders said. So this is to the Washington Post. He's going around the country saying Hillary Clinton going to be a good president, blah, 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 blah. But he ain't playing games. Quote, I will be vigorously in opposition, and I will make that very clear. I get it. You're saying, yeah, talk is cheap, actions speak louder than words. I believe in that too. There's some things Bernie has done in this campaign that I do not agree with. I've made that clear. I've reported on it. I don't like that he sold Tim Canova down the river. Didn't show up for him in the last week where Tim could have used him the most. I don't think Tim would have won. That's just my personal opinion. But I think, you got to put your money where your mouth is. But I do think at the end of the day, if Bernie Sanders says, I will be vigorously in opposition and I will make that very clear, I think you should believe him. I think you should believe him. Darren, Bernie is blackmailing Hillary. Wouldn't that be nice? Moving on. Sanders' comments signal that if she wins the presidency November 8th, Clinton may have to contend not only with Republicans who oppose her agenda, but also with liberals in her party who are not excited by her campaign and have long feared that she plans to govern as a centrist. Ironically enough, I think Hillary Clinton might actually get more love and agreement from Republicans on the things she's going to try to push, and might get more opposition from the progressive wing, maybe even more corporate Democrats, who, frankly, Hillary Clinton's a little too right-wing for. It remains to be seen how much sway Sanders will have in January. He is in line to take over the chairmanship of one of the Senate's major committees if Democrats regain control of the chamber. But aides to some of the senators he said are working with him suggested that less of a coordinated effort is underway. So for a little context here, I don't have confirmation of this. This is my own personal opinion. I've talked to sources who have led me to believe this. I believe that Bernie Sanders did not go down to physically campaign for Tim Canova. I believe that because I believe he was told, if you do that, you're going to be put to the back of the bench. And he was in line for a chairmanship position of the banking committee, which is the most powerful financial committee in the Senate. And he is in line to be the chairman of that. I believe he was told either directly, wink and a nod, you go down there, you medal in Debbie's race, you're moving to the back row where you were in the beginning. That's what I believe. I don't have confirmation. I believe that because I've talked to enough people. I've talked to enough sources close to Bernie. I've talked to enough sources close to Canova. And I know common sense. Now, whether you think that's slimy or not is up to you. But I do think Bernie was looking at the bigger picture and the longer game. I think he might have thought, I don't think Canova is going to win in that district. Predominantly older, a lot of Jewish voters. Older people, Jewish voters, love them some Debbie Wasserman Schultz. She's the first Jewish congresswoman from Florida ever. So, as this shows, Bernie is currently in line to be chairman of the banking committee. The proposals Sanders plans to push are contained within the Democratic Party's 51-page platform, a document that he and his allies were instrumental in drafting in the run-up to the party's July convention in Philadelphia. Although in the past, the party platform has often been quickly forgotten, Sanders' role in shaping it was key to his decision to support Clinton, and he has long planned to pressure her to follow through with actions in the White House. Progressive groups have questioned whether Clinton will fully embrace such initiatives as president and where they might fall on her priority list, particularly as she potentially faces a divided Congress and makes outreach to Republicans a focus of her campaign. This is generous. She's going to wipe her ass with the platform. We all know this. Clinton did not embrace some of the policies contained in the party platform as a candidate in the primary cycle, but she has since signaled her support. Sanders said he considers it his job to demand that the Democratic Party implement the platform. The iconoclastic senator from Vermont, whose long-shot presidential campaign turned him into a national celebrity, shared his plans Friday during a candid and lengthy interview in his hometown. In recent weeks, Sanders has stumped for Clinton, traveling the country to rally skeptical progressives and others around her bid to defeat Republican nominee Donald Trump. But during the conversation in his office, it became clear that Sanders is ready to reassert himself with the Democratic Party. Quote, "The leverage that I think I take into the Senate is taking on the entire Democratic Party establishment and, taking on a very powerful political organization with the Clinton people. We won 22 states and 46% of the pledged delegates, 13.4 million votes, and a majority of the younger people, the future of the country. That gives me a lot of leverage that I intend to use." I agree. I think he does have a lot of leverage. Now, many people would say, oh, Hillary Clinton's going to win. The Democratic establishment is going to do victory laps, streaking along the Capitol. They're going to say, "Oh, screw those millennials. You know, they had their fun, they had their cry." But it's back to business as usual. Yes, Jake, this was recently. This article is from, let me tell you, yesterday. This is yesterday. The headline is Sanders is prepared to be a liberal thorn in Clinton's side. So I think that Democrats wrongly are basically going to say, oh, she won. The millennials, they kicked and screamed, but back to business as usual. He said, Bernie, I'll repeat it, the leverage that I think I take into the Senate is taking on the entire Democratic Party establishment and, taking on a very powerful political organization with the Clinton people. We won 22 states and 46% of the pledged delegates, 13.4 million votes, and a majority of the younger people, the future of the country. That gives me a lot of leverage that I intend to use. Bernie ain't bullshitting here. This is Bernie Sanders kindly saying, I ain't playing games, Hillary. That's me saying it. He doesn't talk like that. I'm not playing games. Your honeymoon will be about 1 hour. I'll send the flowers, but then you'll see me on Capitol Hill. I think what Bernie Sanders is also talking about when he talks about the young people, Hillary Clinton and the Democratic establishment are no longer going to be able to do business in the dark, behind closed doors, in the shadows, among cigars and Merlot, because I'm going to have 6,000 to 7,000 people in D.C. protesting at the Capitol when you try to ram TPP through, or you try to send extra security officials to Syria or Iran, which is also known as ground troops. When you try to make bipartisan compromise with Republicans on Social Security or entitlement tweaks. Bernie, I know a lot of you are mad at him now, but let's be real. How many of you are going to say, no, Bernie, I'm not joining you in the fight now because you upset me then? If you are, I kindly say, check your stubbornness at the door. This man is saying, I'm going to fight. I am not here to coronate Hillary Clinton. I'm not giving her a victory parade. If she doesn't back up that Democratic platform that I forced her to sign, she's going to have hell to pay. That's what he's saying. So Sanders said that his office and others have started converting the party platform into draft legislation. He said the lawmakers, quote, informally, working with senators including Elizabeth Warren, who I'll get to in a minute, who campaigned with Clinton on Monday in New Hampshire, Sherrod Brown, and Jeff Merkley. So basically Bernie, along with Senator Warren, Senator Brown, and Senator Merkley, who, by the way, Merkley was the only senator with enough courage to actually endorse Bernie Sanders. You know what I think about Elizabeth Warren. Aides to those senators said they are certainly inclined to embrace liberal agenda items, many of which they have championed in the past. And Warren, in particular, has a history of speaking out against President Obama's nominees when they are not up to her standards. And she has signaled a willingness to do so under another Democratic president. Sanders said he has sought assurances from Clinton or her staff she would be on board with an effort to enact the platform piece by piece, as he intends. So, basically, what you have here, they are literally taking stuff from the platform, and they are already working on writing and drafting legislation. Hillary Clinton, if she won, is not president till mid-January, but they're getting it ready now. So on day one, they're forcing her hand. They're putting it in front of her. This is what you signed up for in the platform. Here's the legislation. Get it done. We all know she's not going to do that, but this is what they are pushing for. Let me read you some more here. But he said, quote, right now, as I see it, that platform is where Clinton is at, where I am at, where the vast majority of Democrats are at. And that is what we've got to implement. I don't think Bernie truly believes that. I think Bernie knows that Hillary Clinton is going to moonwalk faster than Michael Jackson from that platform. But he's saying the right things right now. The Clinton campaign has sought to play down any potential fissures with the left wing of the Democratic Party. On Sunday, Clinton spokesperson Brian Fallon said that Clinton is proud to have worked with Senator Sanders on drafting the most progressive platform in Democratic Party history. If she is elected, Fallon said Clinton intends to partner with him to advance their shared priorities, which is a whole bunch of bullshit. She ain't going to do any of that. During a rally in Raleigh, North Carolina on Sunday, Clinton touted her proposal to make college debt-free and credited Sanders with working with her on the idea. The two rivals had worked together after the primaries to scale back Sanders' proposals to make public colleges and universities tuition free for everyone. What's going to happen? Hillary Clinton's going to propose the debt-free college for families making under $125,000 a year. And you know what? Republicans aren't going to agree to it. Corporate Democrats aren't going to agree to it. And then she'll move on and say, yeah, we tried. Just couldn't get the votes. That's what's going to happen. But in other ways, Clinton signals that her early agenda may be designed to appeal as much to Republicans as Democrats. Of course! On Sunday, Fallon told reporters in Raleigh that Republicans should be able to support two of her top priorities, immigration reform and investing in the country's infrastructure. Quote, we think that we have put forward ideas for the first 100 days that are the ones that Republicans should have every reason to work with us on. Sanders said in the interview that he favors a more combative approach. Here comes Bernie. Quote, it's not good enough for me or anybody to say, look, Republicans control the House. From day one, we're going to have to compromise, Sanders said. The Democratic Party, before they start compromising, has got to rally the American people around our ideas and make it clear that if Republicans do not go along with reasonable ideas to benefit the middle class and the working class, they are going to pay a very heavy political price. So basically, Bernie Sanders is doing and saying what President Obama should have done when he became president. President Obama, when he became president, instead of taking a historic victory, instead of taking the momentum and the opportunity not seen since the Great Depression to get some real progressive legislation done, he proposed historic legislation that was essentially Republican policy. The Obamacare is literally a healthcare plan that was written by the Heritage Foundation, which is a Republican think tank. The Stimulus Act, which I agree did stave off a Great Depression, was 2/3 tax cuts. There wasn't a lot of actual investment and infrastructure in there. Obama basically pretty much started on the Republicans on the 15-yard line towards the Republicans. It's not how you operate if you want to get shit done, really get stuff done. So Bernie, I mean, these are fighting words. They are going to pay a very heavy political price. If the Democrats take over the Senate, Sanders is all but guaranteed to have a bigger voice in the chamber. He is in line to become chairman of the Budget Committee, although he said his preference would be to take the gavel of the Committee on Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions, which has jurisdiction over the minimum wage, health care, and many of the issues he has championed during his quarter century in Congress. I don't know if they're going to let him do that because that's where he could actually hurt the donors, and they don't want to hurt the donors. Sanders said Clinton's appointees to top positions in her administration would provide a strong indication of the direction she intends to take, and he plans to hold her feet to the fire to fill her cabinet with progressives. A top priority, he said, is a Treasury Secretary who does not come from Wall Street. By the way, we see in these WikiLeaks that both Hillary Clinton's campaign, but also President Obama's campaign before he became president, was literally taking their advice and marching orders from Citigroup bankers and Morgan Stanley executives. So there's not even a revolving door anymore. The door is swung open. They just walk in and out. There's no door. Like other progressives, he said he has been troubled by rumors that Facebook Chief Operating Officer Sheryl Sandberg could be under consideration for that post. Sandberg, Silicon Valley's best-known female executive and author of a best-selling book on women's empowerment, has a close relationship with former Treasury Secretary Lawrence Summers, who has ties to Wall Street. Quote, I personally believe that a billionaire corporate executive is frankly not the kind of person that working families want to see as Secretary of Treasury. We need somebody who has a history of standing up to Wall Street and is prepared to take on the financial interests whose greed and illegal behavior has done so much harm. Sanders said he will also make known to Clintons his views about who should serve in roles such as U.S. Trade Representative and Attorney General. Quote, I expect her to appoint people who will head agencies in a way that is consistent with the Democratic Party platform. And if not, I will do my best to oppose those nominees. This is not a Bernie Sanders who is mincing words. He is telling Clinton, you're not getting a honeymoon from me. I am going to fight you tooth and nail, and I will have an army behind me to do so. Sanders characterized the platform as more progressive than Clinton's campaign agenda, but said she would have an obligation as the party's president to try to enact it, regardless of which party controls the House and Senate. On a number of positions, her views are progressive, Sanders said, but I believe that the Democratic platform is more progressive and that the Democratic platform is the most progressive platform in the history of this country. Sanders will get another opportunity to promote his agenda next month when he launches a 17-city tour in support of his book, Our Revolution, A Future to Believe in. Sanders also has plans for a string of television appearances to tout his book, and he better have plans for a internet interview as well, because I'm getting a little annoyed, Bernie. Sanders will get the first half of the book, he said, is recounting his presidential campaign from a very personal point of view. The second half details many of the policy ideas he pushed on the campaign trail, but in a much greater detail. The book tour, Sanders said, will be a good place, I think, to begin talking about where we want to go as a country. During the course of the interview, Sanders, the first hedged when asked whether he would ever run for president again, but then he declared it as highly, highly, highly unlikely. 3 highlies. Highly, highly, highly unlikely. That's the story, folks. You can read it at the Washington Post. We'll put up, when I put this video on YouTube, we'll put up the headline and some of the story. What I think you see from this is, most of us live in the present. Most of us, our emotions, our passions, our anger, our happiness are boiled up in the present. And a lot of us, this campaign has made us into black and white thinkers. So Bernie endorsed her. You're dead to me, Bernie. Bernie sold us out. I'll never be for Bernie anymore. Honestly, I don't really think Bernie cares if you're for him or not. I think Bernie cares that you fight with him, or at least on the sidewalk, near him, against her. I truly think I've met a lot of politicians. I've covered a lot of politicians. When Bernie says it's not about him, he truly believes that. Bernie Sanders was not trying to be president to be a celebrity or for power's sake. You don't have to like him. You could be mad at him, whatever. Sold out. He's dead. He's dead to you. But I've also talked to many reasonable people who say, you know what? I don't agree with him, but I understand he's thinking more in the long term. He has long game thinking. And I think this story that I just read you shows you what his long game thinking was. He's going to be a chairman of a powerful committee. He is already working with other progressive senators. I will give Elizabeth Warren some credit, even though I think she did not show up to the biggest progressive fight in this century, maybe in 50 years, which was electing Bernie Sanders, who was the most powerful and successful insurgent candidate in history. She failed in that respect. But if she is working with Bernie on progressive policy, if she is going to fight Hillary Clinton, then I'll give her a look. I'll cover her. But make no mistake about it, Bernie Sanders, he didn't just do an interview with the Washington Post 2 weeks before the election basically saying, I'm coming for you, Hillary, accidentally. This is a message. This is a message that he is sending. So I thought that was important to read that to you. As always, youtube.com/TYTpolitics. We have passed 96,000 subscribers. That's in 10 months. So it's a great accomplishment. You guys are to thank. I hope we get to 100,000 by the election. That would be a great accomplishment. I might have a party and live stream it. Maybe by myself in my underwear. Who knows? That's actually not a party. That would be pretty horrific for you to have to watch. But there will be a celebration. I'll say that. But this channel has momentum because we're reporting the truth. Okay? I'm getting more trolls than normal, which I guess means that we're catching on. And the trolls say, you're a Bernie bro, you're making stuff up out of thin air, you're just trying to cause trouble, you're working with the Kremlin, you're a Russian agent, you're trying to elect Trump, are you on the payroll with Trump? I mean, I've heard it all. And you know what I have to say? To me, to be a good journalist, you have to be angry. Because to be a journalist, your main mission should be to hold the powerful accountable. And to be a journalist, you need to think the powerful, most of the time, are doing wrong. And that's why they need to be held accountable. That's where I come from. I didn't go to Columbia Journalism School. I didn't take the fancy classes. I think that actually benefited me, to tell you the truth. I took 1 or 2 classes. It was nonsense. But I'm not here to have cocktails with Hillary Clinton's campaign. I'm not here to rub elbows with the rest of the press. Frankly, I don't even like being around most of the press. I'll say hello. I mean, they're not mean, they're not awful people, but I think they are part of the problem. I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to put a spotlight on corruption, and I am here, if I'm lucky, to create some change and implement some change. even small crumbs of it. If I could do that, then there's some meaning in my life and there's meaning in what I do. And I think most of the journalists out there and most of the hillbots and the trolls, they're very happy with the way things are. They don't see that this country is in a crisis. They don't see anything wrong with business as usual and corruption and revolving doors between banks and lobbyists and corporations and the media and our politicians. I do. I do see something wrong with that. And if that means I'm biased, then I'm biased. You're right. I'm biased against corruption. I'm biased against fraud. I'm biased against a government run based on let me get mine. That is my bias. And I'm open about it. So youtube.com/TYTpolitics, at Jordan Sheridan. Have a good night, guys.